Again, good morning, everyone. My name is Jay Burcham. I'm the president of Provenio Group, the author of LEAPS, and this is once again one of our professional development webinars where we talk about things that are specifically relevant to what you're going through right now in your classroom from the time of the year, and hopefully give some information that helps. And so what we're going to talk about today is something that's on the minds of everyone, and that is it's holiday time. And with the holidays comes some wonderful times, great memories, good opportunities to get together with family, and also some stress. So as we get started, a couple of house cleaning items. Number one, the phone lines are on mute. We'll have people joining us throughout the webinar, people from across the country, and we keep it on mute so that you don't have that background noise. So I won't be able to hear your questions. However, if you do have a question, look over on the right-hand side in that box, and you'll see a box that says question. Just type those questions in there. I will answer them and get to them by the end of the webinar. If you have a question afterwards, you'll receive a thank you for attending email. You can actually reply to that, and I'll email the question to you with an answer. Now, then, at the end of the webinar, you'll also receive a copy, if you so choose, of the PowerPoint in a PDF format of this presentation. So if you see some information you're really interested in, don't worry about trying to take notes on it. We'll send that to you if you'd like to have it. So let's jump in and get started. Right here at the holiday season, it's a wonderful time. It's a time that I've got 3 kids. I'm excited about seeing what presents my children are going to get, watching them open the presents and all that stuff. And then I watch my wife as she's shopping, and she's a full-time teacher as well, and we've got family coming over. And all of a sudden, the holidays can become a little bit on the stressful side. And so what we want to look at is this theory of holiday stress relevant? Does it impact the kids? And what does this time of the year do to both teachers, students, family, and the classroom? Well, Dateline did a survey last year looking at stressful situations. And what's interesting is the Christmas, Hanukkah holiday season. So in other words, basically the latter part of the month of December comes out as being over 41% of folks saying that's a stressful time of the year. And in fact, the APA did a study on it and said, why is it so stressful? And it came down to factors such as lack of money. We're in an economy right now that just isn't doing well. Lots of parents aren't going to be able to buy kids the gifts they want. Lots of folks out there are much less worried about Christmas than they are trying to find how their future is going to look. The pressure of giving gifts. The pressure of time. You're working full-time. You've got family coming over. You've got shopping to do, gifts to wrap, a meal to cook, credit card debt, especially in a time when the economy is really waning. People rely more and more on credit. And all of these things take an effect on your physical health. And in fact, during this time of year, nearly 22% of all adults will begin overeating as a compensation mechanism for the stress. And 14% will overindulge in alcohol to help compensate for the stress of this time of the year. And you're asking, well, what does that have to do with kids? It has everything to do with kids. Because if the teachers are stressed, you will feel it in the classroom. If mom and dad are stressed, you will feel it at home. And so there's a recognition that this is a very real time of the year for stressful events to occur. And so what we do is we begin teaching both our students and our parents and ourselves what are the trigger mechanisms that can cause this holiday type stress. The first one centers around relationships. Now, this is something that requires some vigilance, especially as you work with students. There are a lot of families out there who have lost a loved one. Even if they lost that loved one, a grandparent, a brother, an aunt, or an uncle back in the summer, and it's been 6 months, and a lot of people think that, well, time has healed that wound. Don't forget that a lot of people are going through, for the first time, a significant holiday event without that person there. And so that type of mourning can create stress. This is also a time when a spotlight is shined on relationships. And there are flat-out folks and families who don't get along, and yet they're thrust together due to the holiday season. So relationships can be a real variable on stress for both the adults and the kids. Finances we've already talked about. Even though our students aren't the ones who are unemployed, they're students, if that financial strain has hit their family, then they've got to have a realization and an expectation and perspective on what the Christmas season can behold without adding to the stress of parents who think they're now, not living up to what they should be doing with their kids. The final one is just physical demands. This is one of the most difficult times of the year just from a scheduling process. You've got kids, if some are playing in sports, you've got Christmas shopping to do, meals to fix, people coming over, maybe you're packing for a trip, you've still got to work. This is a time of year it's very easy to become physically overwhelmed with what's going on. And sometimes you just got to sit down and take a break because you end up burning that candle at both ends. And what happens there is that there is an impact and effect on our kids and on our students. As your kids are getting ready to go home for the Christmas break, talk about a few things with them. Number one, all the kids out there love the video games, love TV, and in fact, electronics is now the #1 purchased item for Christmas out there. Used to be it was toys for outside, baby dolls for girls, BB guns and footballs for boys. Now then it's the electronic items, and that's fine. Good brain activity, no physical activity. Talk to your kids, talk to the parents about limiting the amount of time the kids are sedentary. Even if they're engaged in a video game or watching a show, they're not doing anything physical, and prolonged times of non-physical activities leads to a buildup of stress. It builds it up for the parents. It also is not healthy for the kids. And so push the kids, get outside and play. There is nothing that will relieve stress better for a mom than for the kids to go outside and play, and there's no better stress reliever for the kids than tell them to go outside and play. Remember routines. Don't go from a rigid school day with parameters around everything to all of a sudden everything is full free reign. The reason why, and this is especially important for younger kids, elementary age kids, those kids' circadian processes are built around the routine that's been established by months of being in school, and if you turn it topsy-turvy, you make them more susceptible to illness, you make them more susceptible to grouchiness. In other words, have some semblance of the routine that's still there that gives them the capacity of knowing how and when to stop and rest. During this time of the year, nutrition becomes paramount. It's so easy when you have Christmas fudge and Christmas cookies and huge meals of ham and turkey and all that stuff. And obviously that's part of the joy of the Christmas season, but a lot of folks really overdo it in eating here, and a lot of our kids do as well. And when you couple that overeating with limited physical activity, you see where that's going. Not only the obesity problem, but also just the temperament. And from that temperament, you start talking things like attitude checks and actually telling your kids that they need to understand if they don't get what they want for Christmas, sometimes there are compounding situations. And you talk about family traditions and reminding your parents that it's important to have your kids feeling good about certain things that occur. And then you come full circle on all that for the kids and saying, as much fun as all of this is, with all the people over, everyone coming and having fun, lots of new toys and games, you still have to stop and rest. Mom and Dad need to stop and rest, and so do the kids. When the kids become overexerted, overtired, that's when the problems come in. And then couple it all off with, this is a time of joy, a time of laughter. Even those families that are hurting, it's good to find things to smile about and to be happy about during this time of the year. That way the kids will learn to connect the time of the year, whether it's through religion or just family get-together. They learn to connect the time of the year with happiness and joy, and that's something you want to pass along. Now then, for adults, because of 17 million Americans each year suffer from acute depression, and one of the primary triggers of acute depression is the holiday season. And so when you start talking about how can you then deal with the pressures, because remember, if you as a teacher are feeling the stress and depression of holiday season, it goes into your classroom. It goes to your kids. You don't live in a vacuum or in a shell, and so you have that impact. So how can you deal with it? Number one, acknowledge your feelings. Realize what's going on. Realize that things are happening that can put you down, can keep you down. Reach out to others when you need help. Be realistic about what you can and can't accomplish during the holiday season. It's a great time of the year to set aside differences with family members or with friends that you have problems. This is the time of the year that forgiveness is the easiest. Stick to a budget. Don't stress yourself out overspending. Plan ahead. Learn to say no to, maybe there's a party you just can't make, or there's something that you just can't bring. Don't abandon your healthy habits, exercising and eating, and every now and then just sit down and relax. Sit down and take a breath. And so from there, you look at what are the signs then of acute stress. Number one, feeling overwhelmed. And when you start to feel any of these things, you realize you put your body into a stressful situation. So feeling overwhelmed, changes in behaviors. And when you're talking about your kids, and I start looking for the ones that all of a sudden they're talking more, they're talking less. They're being overwhelmed by their homework. They look overburdened. Low self-esteem begins showing itself. Kids are crying. Suddenly they're doing poorer in school than what they normally do. Or there's unexplained fatigue. All of these things can be signs of acute stress, which can lead to holiday-induced depression. And those are things you have to look out for and realize who are the kids who are truly being taxed by this time of the year. And there are things you can do to teach them and help them learn short, little, easy things to step in and make a difference. Tell them that when they start decompensating, when they start becoming stressed, just take some deep breaths. Close your eyes and count to 10. Clench your fist and let go and feel that cortisol releasing from those muscles. Stretch your legs and hold it to count of 5. Write your name 3 times. Little things that break that depressive, stress-induced cycle. Those are not long-term relaxation techniques. They're short-term stress busters. And that will allow the kids to refocus and take a new perspective on what's happening around them. One of the other things to look out for during this time of the year is called seasonal affective disorder. And that is we're now in shorter days. Kids aren't able to go outside and play in the evenings oftentimes because it's cold. Or the days are shorter by the time they get home from riding the bus or being picked up by mom and dad. It's almost dark. The skies are gray with clouds, and that begins to affect people. It's a very real thing. And in fact, the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder look an awful lot like the symptoms of depression. It's just the seasonality is the trigger mechanism or the etiological factor. And there are certain things you can do to realize that you can counteract some of the natural impacts of seasonal affective disorder. One, let there be light. Open up the blinds. Let sunshine in. If you have a dimly lit room, get a higher wattage bulb. These fluorescent lights don't do a lot for the largest organ in your body, which is your skin. Get a regular light, at least 60 watts, and that will enable kids not only to see better, it makes you feel better. Get the kids out. Even if it's cold, every now and then, just take a quick walk outside. Breathe some fresh air. Regular exercise. If it's too cold to go outside, jumping jacks in the room. Something that gets them moving up and gets the blood flowing. And during this time, take care of yourself. Practice your stress management. And most of all, don't isolate yourself just because you're not feeling well. So socialize and stay connected with people. As you begin looking at the stressful things and the depressed things that occur during this time of year, there are several hints we want to make you aware of. The first one, explain to your students that it's natural for some people to feel stressed during the holidays. It's okay that not every minute of this holiday season is as joy-filled as the cartoon show. Sometimes you get tired. Sometimes you get sad. Sometimes you feel overwhelmed, and that's okay. It's natural. Talk about the different ways that your students can access help during this time. Maybe it's being able to talk to a mom or dad, an aunt, an uncle, reaching out to a teacher or a pastor. Whatever that may be, tell them there are people there that if they become overwhelmed, they can talk. Help them understand that when they talk about the holiday season, even if they are depressed, they need to understand that it's a very joyful time for other people, and they should help, should work their attitudes towards that. So talk about the holidays from a very positive standpoint. Even for those kids who are dealing with loss, talk about how this is a renewal time, a time of joy, and it's a great time to begin dealing with what has happened in the past, and not to put it behind them. Never to leave it behind so they don't look at it again, but to have some perspective that joy can still occur. And then finally, remind the students that there are people at the school, hopefully at home and within the community, that are there to help. Now, as you begin dealing with all of this, there are also LEAPS lessons available to you. that will help. Under stress and anxiety, you'll find several lessons talking about how to identify stress. Teach relaxation techniques to counteract the demands of stress. Cope with loss. Cope with sudden stress. Under the anger and emotional management, you'll also find a couple lessons. For example, understanding personal emotion and applying emotional management skills. Under social life, you'll see how your emotions affect your social life. And then finally, under respecting self and others, is knowing what I need and understanding what I want. That's a great lesson for a lot of our kids to learn, especially those who are in homes where mom or dad may have lost a job or they're under financial straits. That way they can have the perspective of what's realistic and also relieve some of the burden on mom and dad by setting their expectations and perspective, because no parent wants to feel like they've let their kids down. So as we close, I want to wish everyone happy holidays from Provenio Group. Hope you have a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and a wonderful holiday season. So thank you.